I was in a role for 3.5 years. I don't move around a lot. And after 3.5 years, I finally was actually interviewing again. And to be back in that situation again, even though I was working with data, I mean, I was doing cool stuff every day. I had to reframe myself to be able to talk about it in a way that explained it to other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
They don't need to know about what an open item is. They don't care. They want to know about how I interact with a transactional database versus a warehouse platform. So asking those questions, like you said.
Yeah.
What am I going to do here every day? How did you start here? Let people tell you their story. I mean, my goodness, the things you find out about a company and how people progress through it just by asking a couple of people that you interview with about how they treat people, how people came to the opportunities that they have. You know, hey, I stabbed this guy in the back, so I got his job, and now I'm interviewing you. That's not an answer you want to hear.
Right. Well, even like just hearing if they're like, if you ask them about like, what's going on? Like, what's interesting in the company? Like, what's exciting you about the company right now? And they got like, yeah, I just come in every day and, you know, like probably not a very fun place to work. Like if they don't have any like excitement over the project or what's going on.
That's a great question that I've never asked.
Yeah.
Maybe in a different form.
Right. Yeah.
But what a great way to just get that conversation started, gauge whether they're happy there or whether anybody's happy.
Yeah.
But then a jumping off point, having that, I mean, that's such like an anchor to relate back to say, all right, this is the thing that you're excited about. Maybe other people are too, but here's what I've done, or here's why I'm excited about it too.
Yeah. Then you can tie in, because if they're not excited about anything, red flag. If they're excited about something that is totally unrelated to your interest, then probably not a good alignment either. But if they are excited about something you're interested, then you can talk about it excitedly too. And then, you know, probably win the interview right there.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I will use that in future advice. That's a very good one.
Yeah. Like gauging like, that, or if it's not, that's usually more geared towards like the manager role, because you get in the bigger picture there. But if it's like, you know, like peer interviews, like then it's more of what's your favorite thing you've been working on, or same kind of question, but just probably worded a little differently to get, you know, more of the day-to-day kind of thing. Yeah.
One thing that I've used repeatedly in interviews as a candidate helps me figure out whether it's a good role for me is to ask a question similar to what you were just talking about, which is maybe not what's your favorite thing going on, but what do you work on now within the company? Again, same thing. You can figure out whether somebody hates what they're doing right now real quick. And two, to even follow it up, if there's time, and hopefully there's time, is to follow it up with, okay, what else have you done with company X?
Yeah.
You know, what have you done with them in the past? And give them a chance to, again, sell you.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, okay, yes, there are 50 people interviewing for 4 spots. Fine.
Right.
That does not comport. What's the word I'm looking for?
It sounded good.
Well, thank you. English major. It still isn't hung on the wall. I still haven't used it. If it doesn't relate, I'll use that easier word. If it doesn't relate to the relationship that you're forming right in that moment with that person, then it doesn't do anybody any good, right? So I think it's important to take the time to find out, like you said, what's going on. What is a typical day like?
Yeah.
What do you do every day? Or tell me about like what a week is that in your experience in a role, or what would my week look like? What are and if you really want to get a good idea of what expectations are for the role, what is for this role, do you guys have a set expectation for 30, 60, 90 days? Is it regimented? What's the onboarding process like? Like, you know, is it just a bunch of here's a OneNote.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Or is there some sort of structured training? Absolutely. Right. A big one that I use is, especially in a larger company. Well, actually, no, this would apply to a small company too, because data, especially, but IT in total, can be abstracted from the business. And I find that problematic personally.
Yeah.
If it's done organizationally. Some people in data don't care, or they don't want to know that stuff, right? But if that's obscured, that's a problem for me.
Right.
And I think a problem for the department. So
yeah, I'd say, that's a good one, because it's getting a good feel of like, you know, how do you interact with the business? Like, do they expect you to go in and talk and learn and build relationships and deliver directly? Or do you have, more of like a software development team of you've got a BA, you go through them, there's a ticketing, it comes down from on high, you just do your ticket and deliver exactly requirements given. And neither is right or wrong, but that's very much a personal decision. And I found that you generally pick one or the other and you are not happy. And if it's not.
Can I tell you, when I hear the word ticket in an interview as a candidate, that's when my mind completely shuts off.
Yeah.
As soon as I hear the word ticket, whether it's a ticket or not, you describe it to me as a ticket, I'm out.
Yeah. Which is funny because Alexi, who's also been on the podcast, is the exact opposite. He just give me my ticket and let me solve the problem. He's a very technical person.
Not I.
Yeah. So it's really this. So it's a good thing to like judge is how does the work come in and how do you interact with your stakeholders?
Sure. Do they teach you about the business? Right.
Yep.
You're expected to learn the business maybe, and that's great. And there's some interaction with maybe you and business interests as a developer. You can walk over and ask questions while you're working on something. That's awesome. But are you going to be given the basics of what someone does every day?
Yeah.
Or beyond that, the room to explore that? Right. If I don't get to find out in a structured way or through some sort of training or onboarding process what the retail side of my business does, okay, well, if I work on a retail project, will I have resources available to me to go ask those questions? Right. Because at the end of the day, people can have expectations for you, but sometimes you got to go out and get it.
Yep.
Can you go get it?
Yeah. So in my current role, that's a big thing is we knew what we needed. We had no idea what it was or how to get it or understanding it. It's very complex data source. So it was very much like we're going to have to go, make contacts, talk to those people, make new contacts and find the people who understand this data source and then work back from there and figure out how do we get to our goal. And so there was a lot of that and just, meetings with people that like, we would just have meetings and throw out what we're doing. And they'd be like, I don't know why you're talking to me. You should try this other person. And we'd be like, all right, we go over and do the same kind of spiel to them. And
well, in a post-COVID world too, with things being, your position is remote.
Yep.
Right. I am remote by choice, but we've got sort of a hybrid work environment. Getting those meetings in the first place.
Yep.
Getting in front of people to find out who you need to talk to without being able to go kick a door is really tough.
Yeah.
So that's probably not a question for an interview where you can say, hey, how easy is it for me to?
No, but it is, I guess, in the current situation, it is good to know like, hey, are you remote? Do you plan to be remote? Are you set up to do remote or you just kind of hack? Cause like I'm lucky, like I'm remote and the company I'm working for is very good at remote. Like people are responsive, people are online, people just jump into Teams meetings and calls and it's as smooth as I want my remote experience to be.
Sure.
So, but not every company is like that. I worked for one just a few years ago that I don't know how they handle this. Cause like they would just you picked up a phone and called, like they didn't have any sort of Slack or online messaging service or let alone like video calls. So I don't know how they got through this, but
my previous employer who I was with when COVID hit made that transition pretty well. They had a really good disaster recovery or sort of a contingency plan in place. They would have drills where we would do a work from home drill just to make sure that the systems could handle it. And that came in really handy. They had some bumps and bruises along the way. I was there for a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I was in the office a few days a week there. I was required to be there. It was local and there was a phone on my desk. I had a phone number.
Yep.
And sometimes people would call that phone trying to get a hold of me. And I disagreed entirely with that method of communication. So I unplugged it.
Normally I unplugged my phone then I worked at this one company and first day I unplugged it. And then they're like, we got to have a call on we do a conference call for our stand up. And I'm like, on the phone? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, click. Let me reconnect that real quick. And I've also worked at other places where people would work from home frequently.
Sure.
Day a week, 2 days a week, whatever. But they would still do the meetings of like everyone go into a conference room and remote person would have to call in, and you could not hear bad audio. You couldn't hear anything. You're just sort of sat through the meeting and been like, I don't know what's going on, So like, it's still, even though they had some of the tools, I still don't think they were like really what I would say is a good remote company.
Our best developer was in the Philippines.
Yeah.
I don't know how he existed. The guy, I mean, people didn't pay mind to him in meetings. You think about background noise when there's situations like that and how it just completely destroys whatever you're trying to hear. If there's any kind of crosstalk, forget it. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then I moved from phone company to another much more advanced company, and it was like so smooth. Like we just we hopped on Teams. We our conference rooms were actually well designed to easily be able to like bring people in.
Mm-hmm.
Good audio visual quality. Like it was just so much smoother, and it was like we had top developer moved out of state and did not slow anything down. So I think I don't know the good questions for that yet because everything has been remote, but finding out if a company is fits your work style is pretty important.
Maybe just ask. I switched. Obviously, you have too, but I left at the height of the pandemic, right? So this was end of July of 2020.
Yep.
It was when I made the move, and they barely let me come in and pick up a laptop with a mask on and one person there, and people were squirting stuff all over the place, right? So I asked the question when I was interviewing for my current role was, how do you guys meet remotely?
Yep.
What platform do you use? That's very enlightening as well, not just in terms of whether you like Teams or you like Zoom, but or Slack or whatever the given tool is. But like you said, when you ask about what you're excited about right now, or what's the thing that you're working on right now, you can gauge and they can say, ugh, yeah, we use Teams, but
yeah, exactly.
Right, this company doesn't have it figured out.
Right. Exactly. Yep.